What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. Wherever you're watching today, make sure you're dropping your comments, thoughts, questions, or even if you just want to let us know where you're watching from. We'll try to get everything on the show today throughout it. We've got some great guests as usual for you guys. Dan Dickerson will join us shortly, and we'll look ahead to the Tigers matchup tonight against the Royals. We've got interviews with Helene St. James of the Detroit Free Press, MLive's Evan Woodbury, and Bally Sports' Johnny Kane, and a very, very special headliner today. Art was joined by rock and roll legend Alice Cooper. So let's bring in Art Regner to give us a little teaser of that interview. Art, I'm really excited to watch it.
Yeah, it was great. I've been obviously, being a native Detroit, I've been an Alice fan and aware of him for a long, long time. And it's kind of odd. Over the years, at certain functions, I've actually met him before, but I mean, we're not buddies or anything like that. But it was really cool connecting with Alice Cooper and just talking about, his love for Detroit and music and his love for Detroit sports. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, I truly, truly enjoyed it. And I have to be honest with you, I was pretty nervous going in because this is a guy that I've been aware of for a long, long time. And I didn't want him to think I was some kind of jerk, but he invited me when he comes back to Detroit. He said, "You got to come backstage." So, I mean, I figured, okay, that's cool. I'm all up for that. So I was pretty happy with it. I mean, he's really a nice man. He's really, really a nice man. And he explains the whole Alice Cooper persona and, all that. But he really, really hones in on his love and affection for Southeast Michigan. So it was a lot of fun talking to him.
To add to all of that excitement, Art, we're actually doing a giveaway on the Red Wings Twitter account. So retweet their tweet it's right there on Detroit Red Wings Twitter. And you can win one of 10 Alice Cooper prize packs with a puck, a CD, and which is his new album, Detroit Stories, which was a big reason that we had him on the show. So it's really, really cool. We've got a lot to cover with Alice Cooper. And of course, the interview will happen later in the show. Visit Red Wings Twitter for your chance to win one of these 10 prize packs. And with that being said, we're going to move in to today's show and get into the big three presented by our friends at Chevy. And we're going to talk Tigers to start this off. It was an interesting game against the Royals last night at Comerica Park, and we're going to bring in Carly to help us talk about this one too. We've got, like I said, it was an interesting game. The Tigers were winning 7-0 at one point, and then all of a sudden it was 7-7, but the Tigers did come out on top, Carly.
That is right. All thanks to Robbie Grossman. AJ Hinch said it was a good game to start. He was proud of the guys, and all of a sudden things started to unravel, and then they got into rescue mode. So let's hear from him after that game.
No, it's a great way to put it, is rescue it, because we had played so well the entire game, really good at bats in those couple innings and even the other opportunities, and was really proud of our guys. And then it just kind of slowly they chiseled away at the lead with a couple of big swings, and Solaire's ball goes. And honestly, at that point, I just want the ball to stay in the ballpark. He's one of the biggest, strongest men in the game, and when it does, and we're still in the fight. And that's when I went out to the mound and put Soto in. It's, we get this last out with Soto, we've got a chance to win. I mean, you've got to keep the positive energy going. And then obviously Nico gets on to lead off the inning, and Akil has a nice at bat, and then Robbie comes up with the big hit, and we go home winners. And that, we played well tonight. And I know it doesn't feel that way because it, the game got really close there, but I was proud of our effort.
Yeah, really happy to see that they didn't fold under pressure, including that walk-off hit. Robbie Grossman had a career-high 5 RBI game. I think Matt Boyd was looking good. Akil Baddoo. I mean, it was a good-looking game, unfortunately. Yeah, like AJ Hinch said, they kind of had a scramble at the end there, but props to Robbie Grossman, man, hero of the game.
Art, why don't you chime in and talk a little bit about Matt Boyd? Carly mentioned him having a great night. It had been 11 days since he'd pitched. He was battling a little injury, but boy, it didn't look like it set him back at all.
Well, without question, Matthew Boyd has been not a pleasant surprise, but what has been a surprise is he's really cut down the home run ball. I think he's only given up one home run this season, and that's really, really good. I think that Boyd is really kind of finding his groove. He's at peace. He's he's a very balanced and level man. So I think whatever happens to him, and he's a real competitor. I guess Yeah, I liked it. I don't know. I don't know if it was a Zoom call or if it was on a post-game Tiger show where they were talking about Matt Boyd because he's so affable, and I guess he doesn't swear much, but he is kind of biting, that he has a little competitive, and he throws some zingers your way, which kind of stuns everybody, but they're clean, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Matt Boyd's a good dude. You root for him. He came back after 11 games. Or 11 days, pardon me. He only took 3 days off of pitching out of those 11. So he was still able to, get the arm work in, and, so he was able to throw his pitches and all that. It wasn't like, if you're off for a prolonged period, especially if you're a pitcher, it might take a while to get back up to snuff. Obviously last night against Kansas City, that didn't happen. That was a weird game. Tigers scored like 4 runs and 3 runs in back-to-back innings, and we're up 7-0. And then in the 8th and 9th, Kansas City ends up scoring 3 runs and 4 runs to tie it up, and then the Tigers in the bottom of the 9th win it. So, a good game, and it would have been devastating, I think, for the Tigers to lose that. Coming back up 7-0 against the nemesis, the Kansas City Royals. And what's happened to Kansas City? They've lost 9 games in a row right now. So there's a lot of weirdness going on at Comerica Park. I don't know. So we'll see tonight. I'm sure Casey Arthur Mize will continue riding the ship.
I think
that was
so
the next
too.
thing I was going to say. Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say Casey Arthur Mize is taking the mound tonight. I know Art's going to be excited. I'm hosting the game tonight. My first time back to Comerica Park after a little knee surgery. I know, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'll be wheeling around out there. But I'm just excited to get back and see some live Detroit Tigers action. So hopefully they can repeat the success from yesterday's game, but maybe not be so close at the end.
Yeah. Keep the lead this time. But I know that you're excited to watch Akil Baddoo, Carly. He has been your Tiger this season, and he had another great night last night, going for 2 for 2 with an RBI. So maybe he can keep that going for you.
Yeah, I mean, he reached the base 5 times. So I can't believe it's his first season in the big leagues. I like that he's staying consistent. So I'm really excited to see what else he can do for the rest of this season. I know he started really strong. We were all kind of like, is this going to stick? And it seems to be sticking. So again, I'm really excited to see if he can finish out this. Well, I shouldn't even say finish out this season because we're still so early in the season, but continue his greatness throughout the season.
Yeah, definitely. He's been great to watch. And as you mentioned, Carly, I mean, he seems to being sustained success, I guess would be the right word for it. And there has been some streaky times, but this Tigers team has been streaky when it comes to hitting as a whole. So definitely Akil Baddoo has been exciting. And Art, we've got to talk about Robbie Grossman here too. He had 5 RBIs on the night. He was definitely the MVP. And here's the walk-off single that gave the Tigers the 8-7 win.
Well, what a big hit there. Robbie Grossman, you mentioned Akil Baddoo. His numbers at Comerica Park are through the roof. I mean, he's batting over 400 at home, so he's got to figure it out on the road a little bit. But, he's been kind of, he's excellent at home. Robbie Grossman is just a pro. That's why they brought him in here. He needs what gets to be done. I mean, Brady Singer, I don't even think that was proper English, what I just said. But anyway, Brady said he needs what gets to be done. Okay, sure. In your language, that makes sense. Brady Singer has owned him. And, and he was owning him again last night. I think he struck out like the first 2 times against Brady Singer, but yet he stuck with it. His team needed to be picked up. And that's the one thing I will say. It's been a struggle for the Tigers this year in a lot of different ways. Yet they really seem to like each other. They play for one another and they try to pick each other up. That's the sign of a team that we're all in it together. And I think Robbie Grossman, who didn't start off well, comes out, as Carly said, had a career night with 5 runs batted in. I mean, beautiful. Way to go. They needed that win. And A.J. Hinch in his Zoom conference, you could see it. I mean, it looked like the weight of the world was off his shoulders because that would have been a tough one to explain if you blow a 7-0 lead at home. But, good for the Tigers. They won that game, and there's a semblance of maybe they're working their way out of this hitting slump that they're in. And hopefully the bullpen can get together, get their acts together, and maybe we'll see the team that we thought we were going to see coming out of spring training.
It's been great so far. And like we said, we've seen them kind of picking it up a little bit, and the hitting looks a little better in the past few games. So hopefully they can keep that going. And for Carly tonight, especially at Comerica Park, hopefully they can come out with another big win. But we're going to move on to our second topic of today's victory.
Win it for Carly.
We're going to talk some NHL playoffs. Carly, why don't you stick around and talk some playoffs with us? Because we know 6 of the 8 series are set for the NHL playoffs. We'll start with the East Division. Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Islanders, and then the Caps and the Bruins. I think that Washington-Boston series is going to be a really exciting one, and that's the one that starts on Saturday.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, those two teams are some solid teams, and they obviously both have a lot to play for, both previous Stanley Cup winners. So, I don't know. It's going to be a tough matchup. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing Zdeno Chara meet up against his former team.
Yeah, and we get to see Anthony Mantha play some playoff hockey. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, good for him. I'm happy for him. I mean, we all love seeing him in that wing sweater, but we're all excited to see him make that Stanley Cup playoff run. So, snaps for Anthony, BT Express, as our love to call him. But really excited for all these teams. Wish Red Wings were making the run, but you know what? I want to root for some Central Division teams.
So who are you rooting for? In the Central Division, we've got Carolina, Nashville, and Florida, Tampa Bay. Those are 2 great matchups. So who are you rooting for?
The Canes, honestly. I'm rooting for the Canes. I don't know. I mean, I like to see them out on top in the Central Division, and I want to see a team from our division win. And since the Red Wings have beat the Canes a couple times, it'll be a nice little pull that we get to brag about. Obviously we didn't have the best season, but it would be nice to say we beat the Stanley Cup winners. That's the way I look at it.
What about you? The Central Division, both of those matchups are pretty good. Again, it's Carolina, Nashville, and then Florida, Tampa Bay. Florida, Tampa Bay could be a really, really good one. Florida's going to be a sneaky team.
Yeah, that's going to be, the war for Florida, I guess you could say. Tampa Bay's a little bit injured. They're a little bit banged up. But with Vasilevsky in net, who I think they rested, the last 3 months of the season? He hardly ever played. He should be rested. He should be chomping at the bit to go. So I still like Tampa in that series, but Florida's going to give them everything. As you know, at the beginning of the year, I picked Carolina to be the dark horse candidate to come out of the East. I really like that. I really like that team. But you've got to give – this is what's intriguing about the Central. You have to give Nashville full marks because what was it about, 10 weeks ago, that team was going to be blown up. That team was, a big disappointment. David Poile was going to trade everybody and everyone, and they came back, proved that they like to play together, had some guys come back from injury, and really, really, really played really, really well. I mean, you got to tip your cap to Nashville. I still think Carolina's going to win that. And real quickly, I know the West is kind of jumbled up a little bit because it hasn't been said. I think it's going to be Vegas, St. Louis, Colorado, Minnesota. I think that the West final between, I would assume, Vegas and Colorado is going to take me back to Detroit, Colorado days in the playoffs. I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic. And if I'm correct, because the BT DC Express, Anthony Mantha he's probably played more games in Boston than he has in Washington. So he's going to be familiar with that surrounding and that environment, So I hope Mantha has a really, really good playoff. But, what I really want to see more than anything, and, Edmonton and Winnipeg, you got to root for Kenny Holland, but, Winnipeg's a strange team. They're either really hot or real cold, but that Toronto-Montreal series is going to be great. It's going to be great. And it would be so cool if Montreal could knock off the Maple Leafs, but I got to go with the Leafs in that one.
Hey, don't count out the Canadians yet, Art. You didn't even let them play a game yet before you're counting them out.
Well, Toronto, it's gotten to a point where they almost remind me of the Red Wings during their 42-year drought. Put together some really good teams, could not get over the hump. Defensively, they're still questionable. Goaltending, obviously, kind of a question. But up front, I mean, these guys can score. And Austin Matthews, is incredible. So, I don't know. There's kind of similarities between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Red Wings. Will this be the year Toronto gets over the hump? I hope not, but maybe it will be.
I'm excited to see the North Division play because I felt like I didn't watch them too much in the regular season, just being so, consumed with what's going on in the States. But I'm excited to watch that matchup because I haven't really kept my eye on them too much.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like I found myself really focusing on the Central Division all season long and didn't really venture out as much as I wish I would have. So the playoffs are going to be interesting. Yeah.
Well,
Art, you look
that's
like
all
you
it was. It was all divisional play. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they're probably all excited that, that they've made the playoffs, all the teams that have made it. But it's like, my gosh, we've played the Canadians 9 times already, and now we got to go through a playoff series,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how they could have done it any other way.
It's different.
Number
I think
one,
it's different.
but it's, it's a little bit different, but, can you imagine when the division champions are crowned and they start playing other teams? I mean, who knows what kind of hockey we're going to see? These guys might be embracing each other just to see another team that they're lining up against that isn't one of their divisional rivals. It could be, flowers and bouquets and chocolates, kind of hockey, just because they're so happy to see other players than the guys they've played against. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but it's kind of a weird playoff situation still.
Yeah, I'm just excited that there's hockey and that there are playoffs, especially with this weird, unprecedented year. So I'm looking forward to the playoffs, even though, like I said, the Red Wings aren't a part of it. I'm ready for some playoff hockey.
I am too. Let's go. Let's start. Let's start today.
I think we lost Daniela, or she's so speechless because we've been talking so much about the playoffs. But
I think Daniela has decided to leave.
She's done with us. But I do want to talk about, I know we've been talking about how the Red Wings aren't making the playoffs, but some good news to come out of Detroit. Danny DeKeyser has been nominated for the Masterton Award for perseverance. So I'm really excited to see what comes of that. I know there are a lot of players who deserve that award, but Danny DeKeyser coming back after that big back surgery. I know he had a little bit of struggles throughout the season so far, but I'm so proud of him that he was able to finish the season strong even, Art.
Well, no question. I mean, he really did come on. I mean, there were times there where, Jeff Blashill, and he was pretty upfront and honest about it. Danny DeKeyser played most of the year on one leg, meaning one of the legs did not come back near 100% like the other one did because of the back surgery. I don't know if that's a common side effect, maybe to back surgery, but he really came on at the end of the season. He's a great skater. He's great in overtime, 3-on-3, because he can skate and there's a lot of room. He's a big man, as we know, and he has a terrific shot. I mean, in 47 games played, he had 12 points, including 4 goals. And he was a +3. Now, I know the Masterton Award, and Helene is going to be on, and she can explain this more because she's part of the hockey writers, and all the hockey writers in Detroit, I think, nominate whom they believe which Red Wing players should be up for the Masterton. As I think Danielle or Carly, as you said, each team gets to nominate someone on their roster. Bobby Ryan won it last year because of his coming back with his bout with alcoholism. So I'm not sure what the criteria will be, but DeKeyser's a really good story because that back surgery was major. He persevered and he came through, and so I'd love to see him win it. But there's a lot of great stories in the NHL this year. Danny's is one of them, but I can't figure it out. I don't think there's an odds-on favorite. Maybe Helena knows, but I can't really think of one.
I mean, like I said, there are so many deserving players in the NHL. These professional athletes go through so many things in their personal lives that bleed over to their professional lives. And, we're talking about Danny DeKeyser recovering from his back surgery. I wonder if we'll be seeing this out of Tyler Bertuzzi after next season. Hopefully he'll be making his return and be nominated as well, because we know he just got back surgery April 30th.
Well, we'll ask Helena. Say, hey, your job's already done for next year. It's Tyler Bertuzzi.
Right.
It could be, though. I mean, honestly, it could be.
100%. You never know.
Right. It depends on what move Steves makes. I mean, he could, Jack Eichel, who is going to get, wants to put a plastic disc in his neck. And the Sabres are kind of balking. That's, I know we're going to get into that a little bit. Who knows? I'm not saying the Red Wings are going to trade for him. I think they might like to, but let's, Jack Eichel, if he's playing with a plastic disc, which is still almost experimental surgery, doesn't happen very much. Hey, and he can come back and be Jack Eichel of old. I give him the Masterton for next year already. I've already awarded it. It's done.
Well, all right. Art's handing out awards over here. I didn't know you had that kind of pool money.
I'm in a very giving mood, Carly. What do you want, Carly? You just name it. It's
money.
Yours.
Bring it on, money.
Okay. Except that.
All right. Well, you can't limit what my asks are. But anyway, that's it for the Big Three. We want to say thank you to Chevy for presenting the Big Three. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. And as Art was alluding to, we're going to welcome in Helene St. James for Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light. It's always a pleasure to catch up with Helene St. James. Helene, how's it going?
Good. I'm just writing down who I'm nominating the Masterton for the next 10 years. So thank you for the advance notice.
I'm always there for you. You know that.
I do. And I just have to say, I'm with Daniela. Don't write off the Canadians before they've even played a single playoff game yet, please, Art.
Oh, I want the Canadians to win. Trust me. I mean, the meltdown in Toronto will be gigantic. That what is it? The CNN tower or whatever, that thing could top, with nobody in it and no one around, that thing could topple to the ground if the Leafs get eliminated in the first round again. I mean, my gosh, that would be something. You got to think though, really, don't you have to think that one of these years it's going to be Toronto? I mean, I sound like a Lions fan in a way, but I would think that boom. I mean, they've got to get out of at least the first round. I mean, I don't know. That's going to be a great series, though.
They avoid Boston this year, right, by virtue of geography. So that's kind of been their Achilles heel, the Bruins. So I think you're right, but I think, again, they're playing with all the pressure, and there's far less pressure on the Canadians, and I don't think you can overlook that. So, I'm going to let the series play out before I decide to write off the Canadians. But I think that series is going to be super fun. And then Tampa, Florida is also going to be extremely entertaining in the Central Division, the Discover Central Division, excuse me.
And you spoke about
I haven't learned those names yet.
It's tough. Sponsorship, always got to give a shout out. But speaking of Boston, as we were speaking of before, they are teaming up and going head to head against the Washington Capitals, who now is home to our Anthony Mantha. Are you excited to see him make a playoff run?
I am, and I did have a bet before I went on the show whether or not Art would work in a reference to the Big Tony. Is it Big Tony Express, BT Express? So thank you for already helping me win that, Art.
But I've modified it now.
An exciting series.
It's the BTDC Express.
BTDC Express. Okay, I'll make a note of that as well in case he gets nominated for the Masterton for persevering without having you in his corner in Washington. So yeah, a lot of exciting series. It was fun to watch. I mean, both Anthony and Jakub Vrana scored in their debuts. Now I did the stats after 3 weeks, and Vrana had, I think, one more goal and a couple more points. Vrana has just been so fun to me to watch these past 4 weeks that he joined the team. I mean, certainly we're not going to go into next season expecting him to be a point-a-game player, but I didn't think he would have such an impact right away. And to me, he looks like that trade can impact the rebuild in the present because of Vrana, and in the future because of the first-round pick Steve got.
I think too, if you look at it, I think Jakub Vrana, like many athletes who don't really know of Detroit or fly in and fly out and play a game here, once you come here and you see this area and you see how engaged the sports fans are and how they're really into the community, I think he understands he has a really good opportunity here. I mean, what he thought maybe, even though he had to play behind Ovechkin, and everybody would have to play behind the Great Eight. But with that said, I think he realizes, boy, I can really be what I wanted to be in Washington right here in Detroit. I guess my question for you, Helene, is this. Does Steve try to give him a multi-year deal, or do you think he tries to sign him, I don't know if a bridge deal or 1 year, much like it happened with Tyler Bertuzzi, see what he has in him next year with a full season under his belt, and then try to sign him long term?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the safety with the 1 year is you get another look at him. Now, it's not like he hasn't been seeing him in Washington for a while. So, it's not just, you're not basing the contract just on these past 4 weeks. I think probably you're leaning more towards, a 4-year contract. If you can get him around the same money that you gave Mantha, it's worth that. Steve has a lot of RFAs this summer. I mean, Hronek, Bertuzzi, Vrana, a lot of restricteds that he has to make decisions on. What length does he give him? Now, Tyler Bertuzzi will have to be a longer term contract. You certainly don't want him to go anywhere near unrestricted status. And I think there, it's not really a concern that he only played 9 games, because you have his history. He had back-to-back 21 goal seasons prior to this. So, but I think with Rana, I would probably gamble and sign him, beyond 1 year to like a 4-year deal.
Sounds good to me.
We're looking at a lot of new guys, but we're also looking at a few guys that we've had for the past couple of seasons. One I particularly want to talk about, who I think had a great season, most improved player in my eyes, is Adam Ernie. He really has been a solid player. He was someone who Steve Yzerman brought over, and we all kind of scratched our heads a little bit. He didn't have the best season with the Red Wings, but this season we definitely saw what Steve Yzerman saw from him.
No, exactly. And I think, is it that he finally got the opportunity to show what he could do with all the injuries? He was, I think probably the balance is somewhere in between his first year and his second year here. I don't know that we can expect what he did this season, next season as well. But he certainly, made an argument that he belongs on the power play full time, and had a terrific season. I think partly maybe with him, it's just a little bit more opportunity. I might, veer more towards Michael Rasmussen as most improved, because I just think he looks, lights different from the last time we saw him. He's so much more comfortable in his big body. He holds his own against much more experienced opponents. I think he's really kind of fast tracked his own spot in the rebuild. And as we know, and Art, I have to point this out to you, as Tolstoy wrote in Resurrection, rebuilds take time.
Yes. Well, Steve's a very literate man himself, so I'm sure he quotes Tolstoy all the time in the meeting rooms. Let's, from what I have understood, the Red Wings, as we speak, are going through their exit interviews with players, which means I would be under the assumption that that Jeff Blashill's part of that. So should we just assume that eventually, whenever that will be, I don't know if we're going to be looking for white smoke or black smoke emanating from Little Caesars Arena, but an announcement that Blashill is coming back is, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. It's just taken way too long for him, if you're going to, and I think we all like Jeff a lot. So if you were going to do something, wouldn't you have done it by now, or am I off base here, Helena?
It's funny. I was talking to my editor about this yesterday. There are experts who read juries, right, when they're out, and how long is it better for the defendant or the prosecution, depending on how long a jury is out. I'd pay money to anybody who could read Steve Yzerman. I tend to agree with you. The longer it goes, if he was going to, part ways with Jeff, it would seem he would have done it by now. And certainly I got the impression when Steve spoke to us on April 12th, and I asked him about Jeff, and he did say very quickly, so I think now we're all wondering, what does very quickly mean? He was going to sit down very quickly, and so what that means. But, today the Rangers parted ways with Quinn, right? I think we're now up to 3 or 4 openings, including Seattle coaching vacancies. So, I don't know if there's anything else Steve wants to consider. I certainly think they certainly seem to have a good working relationship. And again, I think Jeff has done the best with what he's had. I mean, I just look back on this season, and I think it would have been so fun to see what might have been had they not lost 5 players to COVID a week into the season. And then by the time those guys got back, Tyler Bertuzzi was gone. I mean, by my math, we saw the lineup they hoped to have only in the second game of the season because Bobby Ryan missed the first game. We never saw that depth. Remember, way back in training camp, Art, we were all so excited about that second line with Fabry, Sedina, and Bobby Ryan. We never saw it really past training camp. Like, it was just too bad. It would have been fun to see what might have been.
Right. I agree with you. I mean, that COVID stretch, 0, 6, and 2, and Grice basically had to play every game, which, was quite a task on him. And remember, this was a brand new team. These guys had not played together, nor had the Red Wings played in almost a year. So, to get hit with COVID right away, not pause the season, continue playing, that really did put him a little bit behind the 8 ball. I'm sorry, Carly, go ahead.
That's okay. No, and on that, just some, season typical injuries that a lot of the guys sustained as well.
Yeah, and then, who knows what's going on with Dylan Larkin. That was certainly a completely unnecessary turn of events late in that Dallas game. What happened to him, and, I'm still evaluating how serious it is, but it certainly didn't look good, judging from the amount of pain he was in. It's a little different for us this season, not being in the locker room. You don't hear chatter, you don't see players in person, but it just seemed like a shame, and you have to hope Dylan is able to come back and Tyler Bertuzzi, be fully ready for the start of next season, which I'm just going to go ahead and dub Seider season, because I am so excited to see Moritz Seider in the lineup next season.
Oh, I cannot wait. I know he's going to be great out on the ice, but great to have in the locker room as well. He has a big personality. Definitely excited to see what Steve Yzerman does in this offseason. But Helene, thank you so much for joining us on Downtown Hockeytown.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Absolutely. And thank you to Labatt Blue Light, refreshingly Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly. I am so sorry, you guys. My internet dropped there. Carly picked it up so smooth, though. That was awesome. You guys are great. Thank you, Helene, too. I love the Seider season. I think we're all looking forward to seeing Moritz Seider here in Detroit. Now, before we move on, I want to remind you guys again that Alice Cooper joined Art for today's headliner, so you don't want to miss the interview, and you also don't want to miss the chance to win an awesome Alice Cooper prize pack. You can do so on the Red Wings Twitter channel. All you have to do is retweet for your chance to win 10 Alice Cooper prize packs with a puck, a CD of his new album, Detroit Stories, and stay tuned to check out that interview because we talk about that new album, and Art talks a lot with Alice Cooper about so many different things. A very cool interview to have right here on the Word on Woodward. But for right now, we're going to get into the mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars, and today's guest is none other than Dan Dickerson, your Tigers radio play-by-play announcer. Hey, Dan, you an Alice Cooper fan? I'm sure you're going to be sticking around to watch that interview later.
Art Regner and Alice Cooper. Would I miss that? Not a chance. He's a big baseball fan. He's been down at the ballpark and he's thrown out the first pitch, I believe. And it's kind of fun to get to know him. He's obviously, this. I mean, he's an avid golfer. So you talked about his world travels and playing golf. It's kind of fun to see, get to know the person a little bit from that side versus the guy you see on stage. But Art Regner and Alice, I'm there. I will not miss that.
It was fun, Double D.
You enjoyed it, Art?
Some of the topics you covered. A couple of topics.
Well, you know what? He is a big baseball fan, as you said. I got a quick Alice story. I didn't tell him this. When the Detroit Music Awards first came, I was pretty involved in the first 5 or 6 years of the award show. My good friend and I, Michael Isabella, they gave us front row seats to the Tigers game right behind home plate. And we look behind us, and Alice Cooper's sitting there in, his black leather with a Tiger cap on, because he was getting like the Hall of Fame award or something. I think he was the first recipient. He was getting some sort of special award, recognition for being a Detroiter and what he's done to music. And one of the guys, I can't remember the gentleman's name, was there. And Alice decides, let's walk around the ballpark. So we start walking around the ballpark. This is still I'm pretty sure it was Tiger Stadium. And we're walking around, and Alice is talking, and I have some guy tap me on the shoulder. And he says to me, he goes, "Hey, man, your buddy looks a lot like Alice Cooper. He says, it's uncanny. And I said, yeah, he gets that a lot, and and he goes, really, man? He goes, he must really be into Alice. I go, that's a funny thing. I mean, he likes Alice, but he's not really that big a fan. He just happens to look like him, because I just started laughing. Michael was there. He knew that, we both started laughing because, you don't want anybody, once one guy says, hey, that's Alice Cooper, or somebody starts, one goes up to him, then 30 go up to him. And then before you know it, the ball players are looking off the field like, what's going on? Is there a fight in the stands? And it's Alice Cooper signing autographs or taking pictures or something. So, but yeah, he's really good. He played a lot of baseball as a kid. Al Kaline, his favorite athlete.
All right, Danielle, can I add one music-related story in a similar vein? Jack White, as you know, is a big baseball fan, big Tigers fan. Came into the booth. This was some years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years aago. And he's there with a guy who's got a cap on. He's on the short side, and you'll understand why I said that in a moment. And we're just chatting away, and he goes, we're saying hi, and he goes, here's my friend Paul. I'm like, hi, Paul. Oh, my God, it's Paul Simon. Here's my friend Paul. Hi, Paul. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It was one of those moments just like, stay calm, just talk to him like a normal person.
Well, Paul Simon's mentioned Michigan in a number of songs that he has written. Obviously, it took me 2 days to hitchhike from Saginaw. And also I can't remember the song, but he writes Detroit, hell of a hockey team. Is in one of his songs too. So, Paul Simon, a New Yorker through and through, but, has a little bit of an affection for the Motor City, it sounds like.
No question.
All right, you guys, we do have some fan questions that they want their questions answered. So we're going to get to this first one, okay? But we are all really looking forward to that Alice Cooper interview, Art, for the headliner later in the show. Make sure you're watching. Question 1 is for you, Dan. Daniel from New Hudson asks, was kind of a bump, or it was, man, I'm losing my sentences today. Kind of bummed to see the news of Jordan Zimmerman, who did announce his retirement. What are your memories from his time with the Tigers?
Well, Daniel, it's a good question. I'm sure Tiger fans will say, well, there just wasn't a whole lot, of good times for Jordan in Detroit, and that's true. But what I really admired about Jordan Zimmerman was always willing to answer questions after a rough start, always willing to talk about what he was working on. He's a very reserved guy, so it took a little time to get to know him a little bit. But you figure out pretty quickly, is this a guy that, you could approach after a loss or in between starts and talk about some of the things he's working on. And he always was that guy. And believe me, that's not the case with everyone. I think most are that way. But I just really admired his willingness to not just talk about it, but what he was working on. Hey, I had my good stuff in the bullpen, just couldn't carry it to the mound. I'll never forget a conversation we had in San Diego, I believe it was, where he had talked about losing his pitch. I mean, when he came to the Tigers, he was fastball slider mostly. And it was a 95-mile-an-hour sinking fastball that was electric. And the slider was his wipeout pitch. Remember, this is a guy the Nationals had to choose between extending Steven Strasburg or Jordan Zimmerman at one point. And that's about the time the Tigers signed him. And he had lost the grip on his slider. And we were talking about, you think about this. He's been in the league this long and you've lost your grip on the slider. But I just remember him saying, so now I've taken a baseball after rediscovering my grip on the slider, and I've drawn an outline around both fingers on the ball. And I've got that in my locker just in case but just slowly over time, the ball started to turn in his hands and he lost the grip that made him such a good pitcher. So just stuff like that. I like the guy a lot. I was really hoping that maybe, just maybe, he could come back in a new role as a reliever, a long guy, whatever. I mean, we've seen stranger things happen, but the poor guy was, I don't think, ever really healthy here in Detroit. And it's too bad because he really was a talented pitcher, and I enjoyed getting to know him.
Yeah, he even got a little bit emotional when he was asked about his time in Detroit. And he sort of said the same thing you did, Dan, that he wished he could have been healthier and gave it his 100% here in Detroit.
And you think of that one start, it was opener in 2019 in Toronto, where his, I think, 6 2/3 perfect innings, I think it was 22 batters in, actually, 7 innings of perfect baseball. That was a blast to watch. That was Jordan Zimmermann. You're thinking, okay, things could be different this year. And then the injury bug bit him again. But that start in Toronto was really, this is it right here. I mean, he was rolling. It was some of the easiest outs you will ever see. So that was the upside. And unfortunately, we didn't see it a whole lot.
Yeah, well, we wish him the best in his retirement. It was great to have him in Detroit, and he had a successful career too. So we definitely wish him the best. All right, we're going to move on to question number 2. This is Nathan from Lansing, and he asks, Jack Eichel made headlines this week. Is there any chance the Wings are kicking the tires on him?
Well, I will say this. Many years ago, Ken Holland told me if there's something going on in the NHL, whether a player is disgruntled or a trade or whatever the scuttlebutt is, and he doesn't inquire or he isn't in on it, he's not doing his job. Well, obviously, Steve Yzerman learned under Ken Holland here. I am sure that Steve is, kicking the tires a little bit, kind of wondering, let's be honest, let's put nothing past Steve Yzerman. As Helene said, if you can figure out what he's going to do next, then you're some sort of hockey savant or something. But I'm not sure. And the Red Wings have money. They have a lot of prospects. They have a lot of draft picks. They have some young players that maybe they could move or whatever. I mean, they could put together an attractive offer, I think, for Jack Eichel. I really, really do. However, if you're Buffalo, do you want to trade him inside your own division? And which is, I don't think so. And maybe not even in the same conference. Once you part ways with Buffalo, parts ways with Jack Eichel, you probably you want him to make his way back to Buffalo one time a year, not the 4 times or whatever it would be if 3 times a year if he's in a Detroit sweater. So I mean, it's intriguing. Jack Eichel is a definitive number 1 center, which the Red Wings don't have right now. He's a goal scorer. He's a cut above. He's tight with Dylan Larkin. And, Dylan and him played together on the development team over there when it was still in Ann Arbor. And I know Blashill likes him. Every time we've gone to Buffalo, and I've gone to Buffalo a lot to watch the Red Wings play, after every game, Dylan, Jack, and Blash are all, like it's old home week or something. They're all talking. I mean, he has a familiarity. He did play for the development team. But Jack Eichel, there's going to be a lot of interest in him. Does Buffalo want to trade him inside the division? I don't think so. And does Jack Eichel want to go through a rebuild, which Buffalo is going through? Although Detroit's rebuild looks fairly competent. Really competent compared to what's been going on in Buffalo forever. So, I'm sure he's inquiring whether it happens. I just don't see it happening.
All right, but don't put anything past Steve Yzerman is what I got out of that whole message, Art. I
Never
like it.
put
It would be
anything
very
past
interesting.
Steve Yzerman.
No, nothing.
Never.
So I hope that answers your question, Nathan. Sort of answers it. All right, number 3, Dan, this one's going back to you. This is Anna from Michigan City, Indiana. Shout out to our fans watching in Indiana. Willie Castro has been a bit of a puzzler this season. What have you seen from him between last year and this season?
And it's a great question because I think he doesn't hold the key to the Tigers offense, but if that bat heats up, it's going to mean a lot to this offense. I think what we saw earlier, the emphasis right from the start of spring training with Willie Castro was stay in the strike zone and be more disciplined at the pitches you're swinging at. And last year, the thing that really was impressive, Willie Castro could hit any kind of pitch. If you look at his production against everything from a fastball to a cutter to a slider to a curve to a change, his production was above average. That doesn't happen very often. This year, it starts with the fastball. He's been well below average in his production against fastballs, and now he's struggling against just about every pitch except sliders and changeups. But it starts with the fastball. He also started the year being more disciplined, not chasing well below league or close to league average. Now he's chasing well above league average. And what you notice, he's a swinger. That's the thing. He swings in the zone, he swings out of the zone, but when he does, he's making a lot less contact. But to me, it all gets back to getting back to the plate discipline. It's going to be very tough to have success when you're out of the zone all the time. Once that begins to improve, it has to be about that production against the fastball first. and then being able to hit those other pitches. But we saw too much good last year. I know he wasn't going to sustain 349, but his ability to hit all those pitches last year and his inability, starting with a fastball, to hit all those pitches this year at a productive level, I do think we're starting to see some things from him. Reach base 3 times last night. He was hit twice, but still, I think we're starting to see a better swing. But it really is important for this Tigers offense to see Willie Castro swing the bat.
I agree, definitely. Willie Castro, last year he seemed to be fitting in really well. This year, struggling a little bit. But I was saying earlier, the whole team has been kind of streaky this season. So hopefully once they can all find their groove, Willie Castro is a part of that as well. We're going to move on to our fourth and final question of the mailbag. This is from Matt from South Lyon. And he asks, the starters have been pretty good this season. Who do you think has been the most impressive so far? Obviously, he's talking about starting pitching. Art, you go first.
Well, anytime we talk about starting pitching, I guess everybody would think, well, this is always an opportunity for Art to talk about Casey Arthur Mize and, of course, my baseball card of him. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to do that today.
Disappointing.
I think they muted poor Double D or something, or else he's trying to learn the sign language. Anyway,
you're next.
I will say
watch it.
I will say this: I have to go with Matt Boyd. He's 2-3. His ERA is 1.93. He's pitched 41 innings, only given up 30 hits, 9 base on balls, 29 strikeouts. Opponent's average is 203. He's only allowed 1 home run, which is key. So I have to say, Matt Boyd, if the Tigers are going to turn this around, they definitely need a definitive ace, a guy that you can count on every, 5-6 days to go out there and give your team a chance to win on most nights and win most of the games he pitches. I mean, he deserved a better fate. I mean, he was up 7-0, and, KC comes back and because of bullpen woes, kind of lost that. But I want to say an honorable mention, but I want to hear who Double D says, because this might be, unless he agrees with me with Matthew Boyd, I think there's another pitcher who has been very, very valuable for Detroit as well in a starting role, sort of.
Okay, well, we'll come back to you on that one then, Art. Dan, why don't you go next? And I just wanted to add about Matt Boyd, too. Obviously, it's great to see him pitching healthy, because we know last season he wasn't fully healthy and he struggled a bit, and it proves that when he is healthy, he's definitely an ace. So, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that hamstring last year set him back and it got him into some bad habits. I couldn't be more impressed. It's a slam dunk. It's absolutely Matthew Boyd, because he's leading this team in everything that AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter want him to do and that want the staff to do. First pitch strikes, win the race to 2 strikes, quality pitches, soft contact. It's phenomenal how much he has adhered to that. And the contact, Art touched on it. 1 home run in 42 innings. This is a guy who gave up 54 home runs the last 2 years. And the right-handers, he has absolutely shut them down. He's usually shut down lefties. But I couldn't be more impressed with what he's doing. It's one thing to throw first pitch strikes, but if you're putting it in and it's not a quality strike, there'll be damage on that first pitch because teams know you're going to fill up the strike zone. Look at what opponents have done when they've tried to put that first pitch in play. Very low production this year. They've done almost nothing. This is rubbing off on everybody on this staff. Matthew Boyd's always been a leader. The results have been kind of rough since the second part of 2019 and the ups and downs of last year. All he's ever done is dedicate himself to getting better. He knew that he could put up numbers like this, and the fact that he's doing it with such great consistency, I love watching it, but it's rubbing off on the entire staff. And I'll predict that Arthur's second pick, well, you said in and out of the rotation. That threw me for a little bit. I would have said Urania has been very impressive. 4 straight 7-inning starts has been big for the staff.
Just a heads up, when you agreed with Art, he had the biggest smile on his face. He loves when you agree with him. He loves it.
Well, I have to say, because he's kind of the Nico Goodrum of the pitching staff, is Michael Fulmer. Michael Fulmer has started. He's long relief. He's short relief. If the bullpen woes continue, he could end up being the Tigers' closer for all I know. But I really do think that Michael Fulmer has really shown that you know, and it takes a couple of years from Tommy John surgery. It looks like the arm's back. He's getting back to that Rookie of the Year form. And I think that A.J. Hinch has supreme confidence in him, and he will go to him in any given situation. But I do think eventually he's somehow going to find his way back into that starting rotation full time.
Yeah, I think the plan right now is to have him work in the high leverage role, which means it could mean anything from closing a game like he did the other day to the very next day getting key outs in the 5th, 6th, and 7th innings. I mean, that was the biggest moment in that game. Michael Fulmer was the perfect guy to bridge it to the late innings. The only temptation, or the only problem, I think, for A.J. Hinch is resisting the temptation to use him, like, you know, every day. we just saw all the value of Michael Fulmer. He can swing back that fastball on the inside part of the plate to a lefty for a called 30. He can also throw that slider, which looks like a cutter now, wicked at 90-91, same part of the plate, and freeze a guy or get a swing and miss or a jam job. The velocity's back up to 97, 98. I couldn't be happier for Michael Fulmer.
Yeah, Dan, and you mentioned it. It was strange to see. He started one day. It was just a few games ago. He started the game, and then the next game he was in as a reliever. And I would imagine you don't see that very often.
No, you don't. Now, he was just going to be an opener on that one day, but I think they wanted 2, maybe 3 innings out of him. But yeah, in the space of 3 games, opened, closed, middle.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I like the comparison to our Nico Goodrum of our pitching staff. I like it.
That's right.
All right. Well, that does it for today's mailbag, everybody. Dan, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's great chatting with you, and you'll be down at the ballpark tonight.
You bet. You bet. Always gonna love being on with you guys.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Double D.
And a big thank you to Little Caesars for presenting the mailbag. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. I know Double D is usually about the hot dogs at the ballpark with his hot dog maker, but he might have to get a piece of pizza after that one. I'm always so hungry talking about the cheeser. Now we're going to get into Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Tigers. Of course, Carly is going to join us for this one. And as we just mentioned, the Tigers are back at Comerica Park tonight for Game 2 against the Kansas City Royals. Carly will be down there hosting the game as well. We're really looking forward to watching them. And you know, they're coming off that walk-off winner. Another shout out to Robbie Grossman for that 8-7 win over the Royals last night. And the Tigers win extended the Royals losing streak to 9 games. Let's take it to 10 tonight, right, Carly?
Oh, I hope we do. Art, I know his favorite pitcher is taking the mound tonight. You want to talk about that a little bit, Art?
Well, I'm very excited. You know, Casey Arthur Mize, you know, it starts off a little bit rough for him this year, you know, but he's had 2 quality starts in a row, and he's starting to, you know, feel comfortable. Listen, he doesn't lack confidence. You know, his pitches are starting together. I think what's really going on with Casey Mize, in all honesty, is he's learning how to pitch at the major league level. And that's a difficult lesson to learn, but and you talk to anybody, there was nothing left for him to accomplish in the minor leagues. I mean, he has to be here. He has to kind of almost learn on the job and on the job training. Now, the one pitcher that he's always compared to, who was also drafted the same year as Casey Mize, and there was talk that Detroit might go for Brady Singer, who pitched last night for Kansas City. Singer was from the University of Florida, if I remember correctly, and Mize was at Arkansas. But if you look at it, and, you know, in Singer, I can hear people say, well, you know, it looks like the Tigers might have made a mistake on your boy Arthur there. You know, it seems that, you know, this Brady Singer might have been the guy they could have done because, you know, he has done pretty well in Kansas City. Well, I'm going to give you their numbers, okay? Mize is 1-3 with an ERA of 4.44 or 4.41, pardon me. He's given up 5 home runs, 14 walks, 23 strikeouts. Singer, 1-3. ERA 4.18, 2 home runs, 13 base on balls, and 33 strikeouts. So they're kind of similar. So what I'm saying is, and their whips are really similar too, is that, you know, take a breath. Arthur's going to work this out on his own. He's beginning to. So I think there's no need to panic when it comes to Casey Mize. I'm eager to see what he does tonight. He's got Kansas City almost where you want him. I mean, they're starting to squeeze the bat a little bit too tight too. They've lost 9 games in a row. They had to start feeling good. They were down 7-0 and they're thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again. They come back and tie it up only to lose it in the next inning or the next half inning because the Tigers batted and won it in the bottom of the 9th. So I think Arthur Mize is going to be fine. And I also think that, Brady Singer, who's a hell of a pitcher, but, let's not jump ship on Mize for Singer at this point. Their stats are very, very similar. I think, hey, Casey's going to be okay.
I think he is. And to correct you, Art, he went to Auburn. So I know you know his real name.
Did I say Arkansas?
He did it.
You know what? I think Casey might be born in Arkansas. You know what? I have his baseball card right here. I can check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did go to Auburn. You know what? Yeah, he did.
It was Auburn. I had. But I do want to talk about the Royals for a quick second. We're going to see Danny Duffy, who has some eye-popping numbers this season with a 1.26 ERA and averaging over a strikeout an inning. However, his last start was his worst of the season, scattering 8 hits across 5 and 2/3 innings. So we're hoping he's lost the hot hand. That will happen again tonight for my sake, because I will be hosting the game. That would be nice. And it would be nice to see the Tigers get some back-to-back wins. And as you mentioned, Duffy, a number of Tigers have had success on Duffy through the years. But look at the switch hitters of the Candyman, Jamer Candelario, Nico Goodrum, and Robbie Grossman, who had a stellar game yesterday, to all be in the lineup tonight. All of them have hit well against Duffy in their career. But we'll see if Grossman can top his 5 RBI game last night with that nice hero of the game walk-off hit to win the game, since he's hitting .333 and 24 career at-bats against Duffy. Another player who's been playing really well, Art, is Akil Baddoo.
Been playing very, very well. His numbers at home. All right, I stand corrected. Casey was born in Alabama. Auburn's in Alabama.
All the A states.
I don't know why.
The A is confusing.
I don't know why I had Arkansas on the mind. The Razorbacks for some reason. But I do like pork. With that said, Baddoo got on base 5 times. He had a couple of hits and he walked 3 times. His numbers at Comerica Park are absolutely tremendous. And, he's batting, I think it's over .340 at home. But you've got to like the fact is that he wanted to cut out on strikeouts. He's been striking out a lot, but almost who hasn't on the Tigers? But, the thing that I like about Akil Baddoo is he's willing to make adjustments. We talked about Casey Mize learning on the fly. Akil Baddoo is doing the same exact thing. They have a little bit of a homestand here where maybe he can work it out. And then when they go back on the road to, I believe it's Seattle is the beginning of the trip, then we'll see, if that can translate. So I really like that. On base 5 times, 3 walks. Robbie Grossman's rubbing off on him. A great job. But we also have to say something about Harold Castro. Harold Castro is on a 3-game hitting streak. He's batting .440 in the month of May. He's had multiple hit games. The Tigers need that. I know we talked, Victor Reyes is trying to work it out in Toledo right now. The Tigers need something. When they were going through that long, prolonged stretch of not winning games, nobody was hitting. They were all striking out. Well, that happens in baseball. Some guys are going to be hot. Some guys are going to be cold. The thing you don't want to have happen is all of them to be cold at the same time. Then they're going to get shut out and they're striking out 30 times a game, it seems like. But with that said, Harold Castro has picked it up, which is good. Akil Baddoo, especially at home, has picked it up. They're going to have those, guys on this team do that throughout the season. That's how you nullify prolonged winning or losing streaks, and then starting pitching, I think that's going to come around. I guess maybe, and we'll talk to Evan Woodbury about this. My biggest concern might be the bullpen, but we'll save that for another time. But yes, tip my cap to Akil Baddoo, tip my cap to Harold Castro, and tip my cap to the state of Alabama for producing Casey Arthur Mize.
Not
All
Arkansas.
right. Well, on that note, I will wrap this up talking a little bit more about Kansas City. And the standout stat for them is that they will run. You guys, they've already attempted 34 stolen bases this season, with Whit Merrifield swiping 11 bags already. So he's stolen 11 bases, and he's a Tiger killer. We definitely have to watch out for Whit Merrifield. They've also got some burners with Michael Taylor and Jared Dyson coming off the bench. We hope that Grayson Greiner is healthy after being pulled in the 5th inning last night, but don't be surprised if Jake Rogers gets the start for the Tigers behind the plate, and we'll have to keep that running game in check, and hopefully he can do so when they try to steal bases, because we know that's definitely going to happen. And like I said, Whit Merrifield, the ultimate Tiger killer, so we're definitely going to have to watch out for him. Good luck at the game tonight, Carly. I know it's your first one back since your knee surgery, so I hope you can bring all the pep that you normally bring to these games. We're going to need your energy up there at the highest level.
I'll try. I'll be throwing the crutches up in the air. You won't miss me in the stands.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, a big thank you to PointsBet for presenting Bet You Didn't Know. PointsBet is the faster and easier way to bet on sports. When you bet with PointsBet, an official partner of the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Tigers, you get faster bets, faster withdrawals, and faster rewards at your fingertips. Download the PointsBet app and use code WOW2K to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-270-7117. And now we're going to move on and talk a little bit more about the Tigers baseball in this series with the Kansas City Royals. We're going to get into Brush Street Beat and bring in Evan Woodbury of MLI. Oh, we are actually waiting on Evan. So for now, we're going to go into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. Once we have Evan with us, we will get into Brush Street Beat. Carly is taking over this one. I know she's been all over the social media channels, both Red Wings and Tigers, to find us some of the best stuff that's been posted. So Carly, what do you have for us today?
Danielle, you can't get rid of me too easily.
Heck no. I mean, I tried. We're stuck.
She's like, oh, let's move on from this. No, I'm teasing.
It's Carly again?
I know, right? Jeez, enough of her today. But first up, for Let's Socialize, I know we've been doing a lot of mic'd up sessions during the games so far this season for the Detroit Red Wings. I should say for last season. Well, it's still technically. Anyway, Vladislav Nemesnikov was the last player to be mic'd up. It was pretty funny. I love these mic'd up sessions. So let's take a look.
Put that baby in. Snipe!
Throws one.
What are you? 3? Oh! That's it. That is it. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Go, legend. That's it. That's it.
You guys are going to have to check out the rest on social media. It's hilarious. There are a few times where, they're talking on the bench about a shot that should have gone in. It was just right there. It was Ernie Helm and Vladislav Nemesnikov, all three of them just chit-chatting about it. So it's always interesting to see kind of what goes on. I want to say behind the scenes, but I should say on the ice when they're playing in a game and we don't get to hear what they're talking about. So I love those. Svechnikov's was really good too.
It was really good. I loved Svech, and him and actually Nemesnikov, when they speak Russian to each other, I think it's absolutely awesome.
Do you think did he call Joe Veleno legend? Let's go, legend.
That's what I
Do
thought.
you think he was kind of razzing the rookie a little bit? Let's go, legend. Kind of loosen him up before the game.
You love to see it. Players that lift each other up, All right. Well, now we're going to pivot to the Tigers. We've been talking about this almost all show long. Robbie Grossman's walk-off hit to get the win for the Tigers last night. So, of course, when you get the walk-off, you get attacked by the team. That's just kind of how it works. I don't think any Gatorade was used in this mob, but you'll love to see it. The excitement from the Tigers. I know they were going through a bit of a drought, but, a career-high game for Robbie Grossman. He was the hero of last night.
I bet you there would have been some Gatorade it wasn't such a nail biter. I bet you there was a little bit of a sense of relief, actually, that they ended up winning that game. And the mob might have been a little crazier if things went the other way.
Right.
I don't know. When you're up 7-0, you might have had some Gatorade cocktails. They probably drank it all, just pre-celebration, thinking they had the game in the bag. Where's the Gatorade? We drank it all.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right, and to round things out, this one is my favorite. Gustav Lundstrom hit the dentist, maybe on an off day. I don't know exactly what work was he was getting done here, but he captioned it with Monday Smile. I don't know if they gave him any of that laughing gas and a little encouragement to post a picture, but I got a good laugh out of that, making sure he takes care of that hockey smile. Don't want him grinning and missing any teeth. So good to see he's having fun.
Are those his sunglasses, or did they give them to him because of some kind of light they were using? Maybe, I don't know, but
I'm hoping the dentist office gave them to him. I'm hoping those aren't his preferred source of sunglasses. Art?
Yes. We share the same dentist. I have been at that office before. And that and the endodontist that my dentist recommended when I had my root canal recently. Yes, one of the new things, because this was never it as when I was coming up through the ranks and going to the dentist, because of the glare of the light now, they do put sunglasses on you. So I guess you won't be squinting or something. So yes, those are something, I don't know if every dental office does it, but the Red Wing dental office does do that.
You'll love to see it, Art.
But you know what? I bet you Gus wanted him, probably. Can you see him walking out with him saying, oh, no, I'm not giving these up.
He's going to show up to the arena rocking those.
Right.
Awesome. Well, that's it for Let's Socialize. But I do want to mention the Alice Cooper giveaway. I know Daniela was talking about it earlier, and Art's going to be catching up with Alice Cooper later on in the show. But we've got rock and roll legend Alice Cooper for the headliner today. And check out Red Wings Twitter to retweet to win 10 Alice Cooper prize packs with a puck and CD of his new album, Detroit Stories. Stay tuned to check out the interview later on the show, as I said, for the headliner with Art, and keep retweeting for your chance to win. But that is it for Let's Socialize. Daniela?
Thank you, Carly. That's right, everybody. Check out the Red Wings Twitter for your chance to win that awesome Alice Cooper prize pack. There's some really cool stuff in it. We also want to thank AAA for presenting Let's Socialize today. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. And now we're going to talk some more Tigers baseball with Brush Street Beat. We have Evan Woodbury on the line from M Live. Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today. We always enjoy having you on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, it's great to have you. So why don't we just start this off? We're going to talk a little bit about last night's game against Kansas City. It was an interesting game, to say the least. The Tigers were up 7-0 at one point, but Matt Boyd is really one of the stories of the night. He pitched another great 6 innings, I believe it was.
Yeah, 6 scoreless innings. And it's really interesting because if you look back at the way Matthew Boyd was winning games a couple of years ago, he was doing it by striking out 10 or 12 guys a game and really had a high strikeout rate, low walk rate. What he's doing now is just getting weak contact, a lot of contact on the ground, and more than anything, he's avoiding the home run ball. Last night, 6 scoreless innings, but most remarkably, over his entire, I think 6 or 7 starts now this season, he's allowed 1 home run, which the last 2 seasons he's been number 1 in all of baseball in home runs allowed. So keeping the ball in the park, keeping the ball on the ground, getting soft contact, and not necessarily striking out a huge amount of guys as he was a couple of years ago has been a winning formula for him. His ERA is under 2. And, you know, he's been by far the Tigers' most successful starter and a real bright spot on a season in which there haven't been a whole lot of them.
You know, Evan, I don't think that Matt Boyd would ever talk about this, but really, I mean, he's healthy now, right? I mean, the last couple of years have been a little bit of a struggle for him. And as I said, he's not going to say anything, but a healthy Matt Boyd is the dominant pitcher that I think Tiger fans have expected.
Yeah, he's not an excuse maker. And in fact, you know, we didn't learn about some of the things he was battling last year until this year, just because he didn't want to talk about them. And, you know, I mean, we see that a lot just with Boyd, with a lot of pitchers that are kind of superstitious. It was funny. We asked Matt Boyd Matt Boyd was asked last night about not giving up any home runs, and it was almost like he didn't want to talk about it because he didn't want to jinx it. He said, in this game, you're just one pitch away from something going wrong. You're one pitch away from losing your cues. It's a constant battle, and so I think I think this game kind of teaches humility to a certain extent, and he's been on the good end, he's been on the bad end, he's been everywhere in between during his career. But right now, he's healthy, he's pitching well, and he's really been the steady starter that the Tigers have needed.
Evan, we know the stars of the night, as I mentioned. Matt Boyd was definitely great last night. And then we had Akil Baddoo, who played well, and obviously Robbie Grossman with a 5 RBI night, which led the Tigers. But I heard AJ Hinch talk about Nomar Mazara and having him back in the lineup. Can you talk about the impact that he makes?
Well, it's been huge just because, frankly, the Tigers have really struggled in the outfield. You had Victor Reyes, who was struggling before he was sent down. Jacoby Jones has struggled the entire year. Akil Baddoo had a stretch where he was really, really not seeing the ball well. So, and that coincided with Nomar Mazara's absence due to injury, which was the worst possible timing. So to get him back in the lineup gives another option for AJ Hinch, especially against right-handers, to get another left-handed bat in the middle of the order. I think, obviously, it was kind of a speculative signing for the Tigers just because Nomar Mazara is only 26 years old, despite having been around in the league for 5 or 6 full seasons. But he's a guy that has a potential power impact. He doesn't strike out as much, and he's a nice guy to put in the middle of the order, especially against right-handed bats. And that's an area where the Tigers especially against right-handed pitchers. And that's an area where the Tigers could really use an upgrade in the outfield.
One position that I'm real curious about that looked like a bit of a position of strength, or that it was at least stable, was catching. But with Wilson Ramos now out, Grayson Greiner, I don't know, last night on the Zoom, it appeared that AJ Hinch initially thought that, it'll be fine. But then he said it looked like it was really tightening up. I guess it was a hamstring. So it looks like Jake Rogers and Eric Haas might end up being the Tigers catchers here in the foreseeable future. I don't know. I'm not going to diss those guys, but they need Ramos and Grayson Greiner to get back pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, Wilson Ramos was hitting pretty much. It was so effective offensively that he was even DHing on days when he was not catching. So to lose his bat in the lineup really does hurt quite a bit. And then obviously Grayson Greiner, who is the backup. You've got Jake Rogers coming up a couple days ago, and it looks like it'll be Eric Haas, like you said. Toledo actually had another injured catcher, Dustin Garneau, who broke his wrist just a couple days ago. So the Tigers have gone from having more catchers than they know what to do with in a very short amount of time to having kind of a catching shortage. The good news is that it looks like Wilson Ramos will only have to spend the minimum amount of time on the injured list. He could be back as soon as Monday. And it sounds like the Grayson Greiner injury is not that serious. It's just because it's a hamstring and because catching is a position where you have to be squatting down over and over 100 times a night. It's just a position where it's not really easy for the hamstring to heal on its own. He's just going to need to have a couple of days off. He will have to go on the injured list, it sounds like, but it's not going to be a long-term thing. So it's a temporary setback, but it's also an opportunity, especially for a guy like Jake Rogers, to make a name for himself. And, maybe if everything works out, he can stick around after the 10 days are up, after the other guys come back, if he makes enough of an impact in a short amount of time here on the big league roster.
Evan, I know I'm stealing a little bit Art's thunder here. He talked about this in our Bet You Didn't Know segment, the closing situation for the Tigers. As mentioned, Matthew Boyd pitched a great 6 innings. Alex Lane pitched in the 7th, and it was good. But Joe Jimenez comes in, and he struggled a bit. And obviously, that is not what the Tigers have wanted. We were wondering what the closer situation is going to look like. How do you think it plays out moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate to watch Joe because he's really fighting it right now. I think AJ Hinch was looking for a good situation to put him in the game, and he thought 7-0 would be a safe enough situation to throw him in there. And obviously, a few moments later, it's 7-3. Jose Cisnero comes in, and a few minutes later, it's 7-7. So it did not go as hoped. And I think that's kind of what they've been struggling with the entire season is getting a bridge to Gregory Soto. And Gregory Soto has not been perfect, but he's probably been the best Tigers reliever, and is probably the most reliable Tigers reliever right now, but getting to him has been an issue. They've tried Jose Cisnero. I think Alex Lang has done some good things, and you may see him get some more high leverage situations. Obviously, Joe Jimenez is not in a point right now where you can put him in with the game in the line. I think they would have liked to see more from Daniel Norris to this point as kind of a high leverage reliever, and he's scuffled a bit. Brian Garcia has had some good moments and some bad moments. It's been a real struggle to get some reliable late inning relievers to get them to Gregory Soto, and even once they've gotten to Gregory Soto, it's been an adventure at times. So it's tough when you look out to the bullpen and AJ Hinch has to choose somebody, and there aren't a whole lot of really reliable options right now. So I think that's going to be something. It's kind of something that's gone unnoticed during the losing streak because you don't pay attention to saves and getting to the closer as much when you're losing 10 games in a row. But as the Tigers get some close games, as they win some games, the bullpen becomes more of an issue, and we saw that last night.
Evan, I'm so used to you being, in some sort of exotic location. I guess during the season you have to be here in Michigan, but hopefully within the next, 5 or 6 months, you will make it to Reykjavik. Some reason I picture you in Iceland. I don't know why, but I always have. So, and I think it would be fascinating. But with that said, I have really 2 quick questions that I want to ask you. And I know we're running out of time here. Akil Badu's numbers at Comerica Park are through the roof. Not so good on the road. Do you think he can make the adjustment? I've been impressed because he seems to, as I said, Casey Mize is kind of learning on the job. Akil Badu, because he's Rule 5 and he has to stay here, he's kind of learning on the job. And I'm also, another quick little short question. Did the Tigers maybe overestimate their talent at first base, meaning that they thought it could be a rotating position, and it's really turned out to be, kind of a sore spot, in my opinion. So first baseman Akil Badu at home as opposed to on the road.
Well, it's funny because you're kind of previewing 2 stories that I'm working on right now. One of them is not just Akil Badu, but a lot of Tigers hit better at home on the road. And it's funny because people say, "Oh, Comerica is such a horrible park for hitters. It's got such a huge outfield." There are a lot of factors that go into whether a ballpark is a good hitter's park or not. Comerica Park has a beautiful center field backdrop called a hitter's eye, and a lot of hitters really, really are comfortable hitting in Comerica Park because it's got such a great backdrop. That's just one of the factors, but you do see from time to time the players are markedly better at Comerica Park. Akil Badu also has, the fact that it's a big outfield, that's a good doubles park, a good triples park. He can take advantage of that as well. So that could be a factor as well. As far as first base and this designated hitter, the thing is, those should be the 2 easiest positions to fill. And if you look at the league as a whole, the Tigers are dead last at first base production, and they're dead last at designated hitter production. Part of that is the way Miguel Cabrera has struggled. But part of that was a fairly easy position to fill during the offseason that they chose not to fill. They could have brought back CJ Crone at a fairly cheap price. He's had a really nice start to the season in Colorado. There are other cheap options out there that they chose not to fill. So, yeah, I think if you're looking back at some easy things they could have done during the offseason to upgrade the offense, I look at the 2 easiest positions is first base and designated hitter, and that's where their production has been really, really bad this year. And so I think you're right on to that, and that's actually, like I said, that's something that's on my agenda to write about in the days to come. Well, if you need someone, if you need a little time off, I'll step in. I'm a big fan of M Live, so send me story ideas. I always need them. You've got you're a good source of ideas.
Oh, he's
Thank
full
you there,
of
Evan. I appreciate
Evan,
that.
I don't know if you know what you just signed up for, but he is full of ideas. I'm going to wrap this up with a fan question, actually, on Tigers Facebook. John Willis wanted to ask why AJ Hinch is pulling his starter so early. So I guess the question would be, we're talking about getting to Gregory Soto. You pull Matt Boyd after 6 scoreless innings. Why not have him go a little bit longer, Evan?
Yeah, honestly, I think generally speaking, AJ Hinch has left his starters in longer than you would expect over the course of the season. I think generally speaking, he likes to give his starter that extra inning when at all possible. I think the biggest factor last night was the fact that it was a 7-0 game. And normally when it's a 7-0 game in the 7th inning, you can count on a victory. And even the Royals pulled their starting catcher, their starting second baseman, their 2 best players were pulled out of the game because they thought the game was over. Well, obviously it wasn't. AJ Hinch thought that would be a good opportunity to get Joe Jimenez in the game in a low stress situation. Obviously, we saw that work, but no, generally speaking, I think AJ Hinch is inclined to give the starting pitcher that extra inning when it comes. It didn't happen last night, and probably if he had it to do over again, he might have done it a little bit differently.
That's what I was just going to follow up with, Evan. If he had the chance to go back to that, knowing that even though, like you said, a 7-run cushion, you would think that would be good enough, but you might want to consider keeping your starters in a little bit longer now, especially if they're Matt Boyd and they're pitching as well as he pitched last night.
Yeah, and I think if we see Joe Jimenez again, it's not going to be a 7-run game. It's going to be a 9-run game or an 11-run game or a 14-run game or something, because I think there will be a little bit more caution about those kind of what is exactly a low stress and high stress situation going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. Pitchers in general just really haven't been going as long this season. I don't know if that had to do with the last season and limited innings, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting to see. So we'll see what happens next time the Tigers are in that situation. Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for Brush Street Beat. We always enjoy chatting with you.
All right, thank you very much.
And a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat this week and every week right here on the Word on Woodward. Tigers fans, we want to remind you that all tickets for May Tigers games are on sale now. You won't want to miss out on some of the great matchups at Comerica Park, including the Cubs, Yankees, Indians, and more. Tickets start at just $10 too, so that's an awesome deal. You can visit tigers.com/tickets. No one roots like Detroit roots. And now I'm going to hand it over to Carly Johnston, who's joined by a very special guest today.
That's right. Thanks, Daniela. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer, and I'm pleased to be joined by Bally Sports Detroit's Johnny Kane. How's it going, Johnny?
It's going great. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. I'm actually headed down to Comerica Park. I'm assuming you are as well.
You know what? I actually have this series off, so I'm painting my kitchen, but I'll be watching. Awesome.
Well, good luck with that kitchen. But I do want to talk to you about last night's game. It was an exciting game. They started really strong with a heavy lead, and then it seemed like it was a tight game. But let's talk, of course, about Robbie Grossman's walk-off hit for the win. He was certainly the hero of yesterday's game, saving the Tigers and helping them notch that win when they were in a little bit of like a rescue mode.
Yeah, he's been a fabulous pickup, and I actually tweeted about that. I feel like, you know, of all the acquisitions this offseason, he's been the most dependable, most reliable. He's obviously shows his versatility. And you know, like what we always learned when we were younger is that, you know, a walk's as good as a hit. And he obviously displayed that early on in the season. But here lately, he's been swinging a red-hot bat. And last night, obviously, that was huge. I was happy for him just because he's such a good guy. And, you know, he is a team-first guy. Doesn't like to talk a ton about himself. But you know, being the table setter for this team and then being able to come up in a clutch situation, you can see kind of a subdued reaction from last night. He's all business all the time, but it was awesome to see, and he's been terrific. I mean, he has been as advertised since we got him, so I'm glad he's playing for us. I can tell you that.
For sure, because including that walk-off hit, he had a career-high 5 RBI game. So he's certainly been a great asset to this team this season. And I do want to talk a little bit about that drought that the Tigers had, a hitting drought, that is. But it seemed like last night was a bit of a change-up. I have to bring up Akil Baddoo. He reached the base 5 times, knocking a pair of singles. Can you believe this is his first season in the big leagues?
Yeah, it's remarkable. Look, early on in the season, you know, he came storming out of the gate, and we all remember that fondly. And there were a lot of people that said, you know, hey, let's give it some time. Let's, you know, let's not put too much pressure on him. Well, he doesn't put pressure on himself. And I don't know that we were putting pressure on him either to keep up the torrid pace that he was on. But, you know, you're going to see this with a lot of young players where you're going to have stretches where you're playing out of your mind. And then you're going to have stretches where you come down to earth a little bit. But it looks like he is back playing the type of baseball that we know he's capable of doing. Stays within himself really well. And, you know, another guy who, you know, he puts the work in every day. So it's not a flash in the pan, in my opinion, you know, as far as what he's able to do. But it's good to see him swinging it a little bit better. And then obviously the trust that you have to have in your manager to continue to pencil you in the lineup every day, even if you are scuffling a little bit at the plate. But, you know, I think once the temperatures start to heat up a little bit, we see what Akil's done, obviously, on his resume up to this point. And I think he's going to continue to swing a hot bat. And I sure hope he does.
I do as well. I called him my Tiger at the beginning of the season, and that was a
Nice.
little premature because sometimes when guys get into the big leagues, they start off really hot, but maybe can't stay consistent. But it seems that Akil Baddoo has been able to sustain that success.
Yeah, look, when you're putting up the type of numbers that he was early on, even the greatest in the history of the game can't keep up that type of production. But it's a matter of, we talk about this a lot in baseball, is controlling your heartbeat and controlling your breathing. And even when things aren't going well, you don't want to press too much. When you know what you're capable of doing, sometimes we use this expression, trying to do too much, try to do too much at the plate. And there are situations where you just want to get a knock and just to kind of get it going, start feeling those good feelings again. So with a young player, you're going to go through that a little bit. And again, it's a discouraging game. It's a game based on failure. So you have to manage your failure, and you have to manage it while also harnessing, knowing what you're capable of doing at this level. And as pitchers start to learn more about Akil, and they have already, they start to pitch him a little bit differently. And then he's got to continue to make adjustments. And we saw it obviously in the Kansas City game last night. You see what he was able to do, in the Minnesota series earlier this year. I mean, just a fabulous story. The guy's got his head on straight. And look, I think, I think the best is yet to come for Akil Baddoo, and that's pretty exciting to say.
I couldn't agree more. He's a young guy. Can't wait to see what he does this season. He's already done so much. And someone else who has already done a lot this season, Harold Castro. He's had yet another multi-hit game last night. And that was 3 straight games. I said 3, 3 straight games with 2 or more hits. Like we're talking about that drought, but how relieving is it to see that some of these guys like Akil Baddoo are staying consistent and getting some good hits at bat?
Yeah, you bring up Harold, and we saw what he was able to do. I remember the night he got called up a couple seasons ago, and another guy that has an incredible story about how he got here and then to try to stay at this level. It's very difficult to be good at one position in the major leagues. It's far more difficult to be able to play every position at a high level, and that's what Harold Castro gives you. That's why he was able to be the 26th man on the roster. That doesn't mean he's the 26th best player on the roster, but because he's like a jack of all trades, he gives you that versatility. And as a manager, that temptation might be, hey, we need to play him more. We need to play him more. And you try to find spots where it works to play him or pinch hit him or put him in situations where he can succeed. At the same time, he's such a weapon that when you have him on your bench, the other team may not be accounting for that. So he's such a great player that you say, you know what, we can use him in a lot of different ways. He may not be an everyday player right now, but what he gives you as that threat off the bench, not just with his glove, but obviously at the plate, makes him obviously a versatile and a very diverse player. And he's another guy that I think, the best is yet to come. He plays it the right way. He's very measured in how he approaches his business as well. And he's a guy that can continue to push for more playing time when he has that type of production at the plate that we've seen here recently.
All right, so we're talking about the play. Let's talk a little bit about the mound. We saw Matt Boyd in the game yesterday. He had a pretty strong game after 11 days off due to injury. So he posted his 5th outing of the season of 6 or more innings. So it was 4 hits and 2 walks from Matt Boyd while striking 5. He seems to be looking better out on the mound this season.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Matthew has been keeping the ball in the ballpark. We all know his abilities. We know how good he can be when he's dialed in. And the one issue that had plagued him over the last couple of seasons has been the home run ball. But you look at what he's been able to do at this point in the season, just 1 home run allowed. If you're going to get 6 scoreless innings out of your pitcher who's coming off, like you said, an extended 11-day rest and showed no signs of rust, that's an ace of a staff. And I was glad to see that it was only, the 11 days that he had to miss in between starts, because when he's healthy, he is fabulous. I mean, his ERA, sub-2, he's just been terrific this year, and he's been baffling hitters. So Matthew Boyd's a guy that the way he goes about his business as well, you want your young pitchers to look at a guy like that, try to emulate. You may not have the same pitching style, but as far as his work ethic and his approach to how he handles each hitter, he always talks about battling. It's a battle in every pitch. When you're in the game of baseball, it may sound a bit cliche to say, hey, it's just 1 pitch at a time, much like we hear from a lot of players, 1 day at a time or 1 game at a time. For Matthew, it really is 1 pitch at a time, and pitch after pitch after pitch. He's been brilliant to this point in the season. If they continue to get that type of top of the rotation production, he's going to keep these teams in games, and obviously you get a chance to go win it late. Last night, certainly, the bullpen was an issue, but they were able to come out and get the big hit from Robbie Grossman in order to win that game.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see him playing well. I know we were talking about Robbie Grossman being a great guy, so you really root for him. Matt Boyd's another one of those players, just fantastic guy on and off the field. So you're always just backing up Boyd. Backing up Boyd. I like that. Right?
That's good. That's good.
Thank you. So one more question about yesterday's game. We saw Grayson Greiner leave the game in the 5th inning due to hamstring tightness. So I wonder if we'll see Jake Rogers behind the plate today, because I know AJ Hinch was pretty skeptical about seeing Greiner back in the lineup for tonight's game.
Yeah, and the good part about it is, that's why you like to have catcher depth. The problem is, even if it's only a couple of days with hamstring tightness, which is what we expect, you can't go a couple of days without a catcher. So if they decide to bring up Eric Haas, and if they have to put Grayson on the 10-day, they'll have some depth there as well. But Rogers is a guy who can handle the workload. He handles the staff exceedingly well. He's worked a lot with the younger pitchers, but we saw here recently he worked with Jose Urena as well. So, Jake Rogers is a guy who will be able to stay at this level. Again, he'll be able to push for more playing time as well. You don't want to see that playing time come due to an injury to somebody else, but he was platooning with Grayson Greiner. But there's never been any question about his defensive abilities, his abilities to, frame pitches behind the plate, his abilities to manage a rotation. It's going to come down to the microscope will be on his hitting. And he's been hitting to this point, and that's been great to see, because remember, he missed all of last year because of the pandemic shortened season. So we didn't get to see what he was able to do. I know he was a little bit disappointed in that, because when you take an entire year off, not that he wasn't getting work in, but when you don't get an opportunity to play at the major league level, that can be a little disconcerting. But he's been able to come in and obviously be productive in the limited time we've seen him to this point. And at 26 years old, Jake Rogers is a piece that the Tigers like, and certainly hope he is part of the long-term future as well.
For sure. You love seeing these guys getting these opportunities. Unfortunately, it is a lot of times due to injuries. You see it in every sport, but hopefully Jake Rogers can capitalize on the opportunity he gets if we do see him in the game tonight. Speaking of the game tonight, we're going to see Casey Arthur Mize, as Art Regner loves to affectionately call him. We'll see him on the mound tonight. So what can we expect out of Casey Mize?
Well, Casey's going to have to continue to pound the zone. I mean, that's the thing with these younger pitchers. The one thing that has plagued the Tigers to this point, not necessarily with Casey, but is, the walks. And whether it's the bullpen or your starters, you can't give free passes, and especially a team like Kansas City, they love to take advantage of their team speed on the base pass, and they can wreak havoc. I mean, it's just a different animal when you're pitching from the stretch as opposed to pitching with it clean behind you. So, for him, it's going to be continuing to do what he's been doing. He's a work in progress. He's been fabulous to this point, as far as I'm concerned. You got to understand, this is a young man. We know his stuff plays at this level. You got to continue to pound, the meaty part of the plate and challenge these guys. You don't want to be too cute too early, especially when you're starting your big league career. Be aggressive, attack these hitters. We saw what he was able to do against a potent Houston Astros lineup. I think he'll be aggressive again today against Kansas City. And again, you got to trust your defense behind you to do the work that they've done to this point in the season. But Casey Mize is a guy that we're all still really excited about. He knows what he's capable of doing. The Tigers know what he's capable of doing. And the opposition in short order is learning what he's capable of doing as well.
Really excited to watch that matchup tonight against the Royals. It starts at 7:10. I will be there. Johnny Kane will be painting his kitchen. So best of luck to you. Thank you so much for joining me on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Mailbag. It's always a pleasure, Johnny.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. All right, Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly, and thank you, Johnny. That was a great interview, great insight on this series with the Royals. Again, game time is 7:10 p.m. tonight, so make sure you're tuning into the pregame on Bally Sports Detroit as well. And we are just moments away from the big interview of the show. Art will be joined by Alice Cooper, but make sure you head over to the Red Wings Twitter account first and retweet their tweet, and you have a chance to win 10 Alice Cooper prize packs, which include a puck and a CD, his new album, Detroit Stories. But you definitely want to stay tuned. Just moments away now, Art and Alice Cooper. So I'm going to hand it over to Art.
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite, and our guest is native Detroiter, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, legend. I can go on and on and on, and I won't. Is Alice Cooper joins us. Alice, Thanks for joining us. Really, really appreciate this. I can't tell you how excited I am to talk to you.
So this is the bedroom. This is the
Yes.
bedroom, that notorious bedroom of yours.
Yes, this is my childhood bedroom where I do have the album someplace, but yes, this is the first time I ever heard Killer was in this bedroom, and I got it for Easter, along with George Carlin's Class Clown. It was a double set. My parents, I guess, were pretty cool back then. And of course, Killer is an excellent album, and Class Clown had the 7 words you can't see on TV, which, you know, getting it for Easter was wow. I mean, I got a lot of street cred. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
They definitely were, boy. They were quite a pair. But with that said, thank you for joining us. I want to get right into it. I can go all over the place with you, and I promise I'm going to try to stay focused and not jump around too much. But you just released Detroit Stories. It's your 28th album overall, your 21st solo album. It debuted #1 Billboard's top album sales chart. Can you give us a little background? Why, at this point in your career where you have accomplished everything, that you wanted to pay homage to your hometown?
Well, and if you're from Detroit, you're proud of it. I mean, it's a lot of times Detroit was the butt of the joke, on a lot of different levels. But if you're in the music business and you say you're from Detroit, you get a lot of credibility. Motown, hard rock. I mean, look at the bands that came out of there: MC5, Iggy and the Stooges, Bob Seger, Ted Nugent, Susie Quattro, Alice Cooper. We're all hard rock bands. There's nothing about us that isn't guitar-driven hard rock. And, that's something to be proud of. And I always thought of some of the great, who was the greatest baseball player of all time? Ty Cobb, I think. Who was the greatest hockey player? Gordie Howe. When you think of the greatest running back of all time, Barry Sanders. So Detroit has a lot of history in sports that you can't deny it.
I'm listening to this album, and I'm looking at all the Detroit talent, and the legendary MC5 guitarist Wayne Kramer. He co-wrote a song. You had a song called "Go Man Go." You reworked it to "Go Wings Go." It's a great video. The fans go nuts, even though there's only 750 of them at Little Caesars Arena during a Wings game. How did that all come about? Why did you take "Go Man Go" and rework it into "Go Wings Go"?
Well, actually, the Wings got in touch with me, and the album, of course, in Detroit was really championing Detroit, and at the same time, somebody there heard that song and said, "What could we make that Go Wings Go?" And I said, "Well, absolutely." And they wanted me just to do the chorus, and I said, "No, I'm going to do the whole song. I'm going to rewrite the whole song to be, about hockey." And anything to get that audience going, anything to get that crowd going. To me, it's a privilege to be shown at a Red Wings game. When I was a little kid, my dad would take me to see, Gordie Howe and Ted Lindsay and Terry Sawchuk and all these guys. And it was such a thrill to see those guys play, because we played hockey on the lake, at night. Baseball was a sandlot. We never really got to play on a real baseball field. So anytime you got to see a Tigers game or a hockey game with the real guys playing, it was like better than Disneyland.
Wow. Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you because there is in the liner notes, and you pay respect and mention a lot of people that you thank, but 2 that really stood out to me, and naturally, were Gordie Howe and Al Kaline. I would imagine growing up here as a young boy in Detroit, did you dream of someday either being a Red Wing or a Tiger?
All I ever did when I was a kid was play baseball. I was a left fielder, and that's the time the sun came up till the sun went down. That's all we did was baseball. And it was like one street was Polish, one street was Irish, one street was Italian, and we get up in the morning and say, "Who are we playing today?" "Oh, we're playing the Irish guys." "Oh, cool. Who are we playing tomorrow?" "We're playing the Italians tomorrow." And that was so cool, because there was nobody thought even of anything racial. Nobody thought of anything, what country they from. It was all about baseball.
Right.
There was no color. And it got to be like that with music too. We would play the Grandy Ballroom or the East Town, and all of a sudden we'd look down and there would be, there would be Smokey Robinson, in the audience, or there would be one of the Supremes or Marvin Gaye or anybody like that, because rock and roll and Motown were like that. All of our friends were either rock and rollers or Motown guys, and you'd think that they would be kind of at odds with each other. Not in Detroit. In Detroit, there was no color thing. There was no race thing.
I mean, that pretty much says Detroit. I want to get into the fact is that when you move to Arizona, you meet some high school buddies, you form a band, the Alice Cooper Band, originally the Alice Cooper Band. And, I would imagine, and, were you just Vince in the beginning, or Vincent when the band first started? And so you go to...
The name of the band was Alice Cooper, and I was Vince. I was the singer. But everybody that looked at me went, "Oh, there's Alice. That's Alice Cooper." That's it. I became the focal point, and so I just went, "Okay, I'll be Alice." And the thing about it was the character Alice that I play on stage is a character. I mean, I play Alice Cooper. When I'm off stage, I'm nothing like this character at all. He's my favorite rock star. I invented him to be my favorite rock star. So I could talk about him in the third person. We would sit there and say, "Well, would Alice say that?" No, Alice wouldn't say that. Would Alice wear that? No, Alice wouldn't wear that. So I could be very, very, unjudgmental about him. I could just sit there and say, "Okay, I'm playing this character. What do I want my favorite rock star to do here?" And then I could divorce it. I could get off stage and not be him anymore. It was just more convenient to change my name to Alice Cooper, to be honest with you.
Right. Well, I mean, speaking to someone who, changed their name when he was on the radio, so I could get into that persona, I guess. I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah, I would walk away from the mic after pulling an air shift, and I was myself. I wasn't who I just happened to be for the last 4 hours or whatever. I completely get that.
You kind of go out of your way to not be anything like that character. I mean, he's like an arrogant villain, who doesn't mind every once in a while stepping on a banana peel, And so I like the fact that Alice is this vicious character, but every once in a while he does something really stupid up there.
I want to ask you, I know when the band first started, you were, and there was a great documentary that I think I might have saw on Showtime about you're in LA and you're trying to make it there, and they don't get you and they don't understand you. And then all of a sudden the guy from Detroit says, maybe we should go to Detroit. Maybe. And I don't know if that saved the Alice Cooper Band. I know you alluded to it earlier, but it really set you guys up. I mean, you guys took off once you moved back to Detroit.
Right. Well, the band started in Phoenix in high school, and we became a really big band in Phoenix. It was like we were opening for the Yardbirds and the Kinks and everybody that would come through. We were the opening band, and then we decided, okay, tired of being an opening band, we need to have an album out. We need to go to LA and be discovered. Well, we got to LA and everybody was peace and love and everything's groovy and all this. And Alice Cooper gets up on stage and we're in makeup and, uplighting. And we used to scare the hell out of these audiences because they were, the Doors were great. They ruled the roost in LA. The Doors did. Right. And they were our best friends. But we just didn't belong there in LA. And we finally got to a point of saying the first place that gives us a standing ovation, we're going to move to. Well, that happened to be Saugatuck Pop Festival in Michigan. And the first time I ever saw the MC5, first time I ever saw Iggy, first time I ever saw any of those Detroit bands, because they were all local bands. And then we got up on stage and as freaky as could be. And we were as loud, if not louder than all the other bands. And the audience went, "Oh, I love these guys." And then they found out I was from East Detroit. So I became the lost son, you know. And when we moved there, then all those bands were our best friends.
Wow. Yeah, well, you return home. You're here in Michigan. I'm kind of curious over the years because you've always come back a big supporter. I can remember the first ever Detroit Motor City Music Awards. You came back and you were there, and I mean you've always been an ambassador for our city. Even though I guess technically you haven't really lived in Detroit since you were a young teenager. Have people come up to you and go, Alice, what is this Detroit thing with you? Why do you have such an affinity for this city? I know you were born there and I know it helped your career out, but what is it about Detroit and Alice Cooper?
It's, it was just something it's in your DNA. When we started doing the Detroit Stories album, I didn't bring my band in. I said, I want to put a band of Detroit players in, guys that I have known for 50 years. Johnny B on drums and Wayne Kramer on guitar and Mark Farner on guitar. And all these great musicians. I said, if it's going to be a Detroit album, it's got to be Detroit players. The one thing I didn't really realize was all these songs are hard rock songs, real Detroit, street hot rod, hard rock songs. And there was a touch of R&B in all of those guys that played. Wayne Kramer had a little touch of R&B in his guitar playing. Certainly Johnny B, was same thing. And I welcomed that. I said, that's what Detroit sounds like. So let's keep that in. Let's not hide that. Let's make it sound like a band that was from Detroit. There's MC5 were very, very R&B, and they were hard rock, but they were R&B. The Stooges were street. I mean, they were just pure punk street. And then Alice Cooper was this other combination of all this stuff. But really, we wanted to be Detroit's Yardbirds,
Yeah, well, I mean, you certainly succeeded at that. I like the fact that in this, you wrote most of the songs yourself. You cover Lou Reed's Rock and Roll, but you use a Fred Sonic Smith song, which I've always loved, Sister Ann, and a Bob Seger song, East Side Story. I mean, why? I mean, Fred Sonic Smith's a legend, obviously. Bob Seger's a legend. You're a legend, but was it important for you to maybe cover a couple of songs written by native Detroiters like yourself?
Absolutely. That was part of the plan. We knew we were going to write 3/4 of the album, and it was going to be about characters that I knew in Detroit and characters that, rubbed off on me. There was one con man, and there was there's all these great $1,000 high heel shoes about this guy that's in love with his girlfriend, doesn't care what it costs as long as she's got her high heel shoes on. And that we turned that one into a Motown song. But, then we decided, when we listened to Rock and Roll, the Velvet Underground's version of it, I knew Lou Reed pretty well. Bob produced Lou Reed, Bob Ezra. Right. And I said, he would not mind if we turned this into a Detroit song, and then on that Detroit station, instead of New York station. And, and I said, just put a V8 engine in it and turned it into a hot rod. It could be a real Detroit song.
I wanted to wrap this up with the looking at the Detroit City 2021. You mentioned some old, you mentioned some new, which again really just plays into the fact that the musical history in this city, and look, and I'm not partial, I'm a real homer, is almost second to none, right? I mean, Detroit can hold up against any town, you can name it, any city in the world.
Absolutely. Detroit, New York had their sound, San Francisco had their sound, LA had a sound, and the South had Southern rock. But Detroit, we were the guys that were, I think, a little more dangerous. I think the Detroit sound was a little more dangerous. You knew that everybody in that band probably had a switchblade in their pocket, and that was just Detroit. That's, that was just part of being from Detroit. I think Detroit is really now blooming again downtown. I mean, I've been down to Shinola, and all those things are blooming downtown. And the last time I was there, I felt absolutely no danger downtown at all, So I think anybody that thinks that Detroit is the old Detroit, they're badly mistaken. By the way, one of the geniuses out of Detroit, Jack White is really, to me, one of the true geniuses that's really come out of Detroit. I'm proud that he's from Detroit. He's sort of like the new Zappa, does everything his way.
Well, I'm a big Jack White fan. I mean, I've seen the White Stripes. I've seen every band that he's been in, and obviously when the Masonic Temple was on financial ruin and they thought they were going to shut it down or do something, he came in and saved it. So, I mean, much like yourself, I mean, you guys are loyal to Detroit. There's no doubt about it. You're good citizens and ambassadors to our city. I have to ask you one final question, because I know the sports fans are thinking, all right, Alice, he's a rock and roller. We know that. And he's a big sports fan. Who is your favorite Detroit athlete? Do you have one? Somebody that, that you really, really admired?
Well, my bedroom when I was a kid was a shrine to Al Kaline. And I'll tell you a funny story. In this position, you meet everybody. I met Sinatra. I liked him. Good guy. Elvis, great guy. Dylan, the Beatles, all these really great guys. I'm getting ready to tee off at Oakland Hills. And somebody says to me, hey, Al Kaline's behind us. And my hands went like this. Because he was my Mickey Mantle. He was the guy that I played baseball. I wanted to be just like Al Kaline. And I met him, and he was the sweetest guy in the world, And they say, don't meet your heroes. And that was not true. Almost all the guys I mentioned were guys that were really good guys. And Al Kaline, though, was, of course, my hero. Bobby Lane, when I was a little kid, Bobby Lane was the quarterback. And like I said, Gordie Howe. I mean, on and on. There were just so many Detroit sports heroes.
I'll say, I got to end it, or I'll go on. I can go on all night and ask you all kinds of different things. And we'll have to have you on again. I'm so happy for you. Detroit Stories. I mean, it rocks. It's excellent album. It's all about Detroit. So, certainly being a native Detroiter, I'm a big fan. But we appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon. Go Wings, go! And best of luck in everything, Alice. You have entertained me for decades, and I can't tell you how much of a pleasure, honor, and privilege it was to talk to you today. Thank you for joining us.
You should always do your show from your bedroom, I think, because this is my bedroom. Look at all my stuff back here. I collect all kinds of Elvis with my makeup on. And,
oh yeah, I love it. I mean, I think it's excellent. And a lot of this is still. Although I do have the cat castle back there, so for those guys, But yeah, that's a lot of my stuff too. Alice, thank you again. Very much a pleasure. Detroit Stories, go out and get it. If you're a native Detroiter, this is a must. This is a must. Thanks again, Alice. Really appreciate it.
We'll see you, Art.
All right, thanks. That'll do it for this edition of The Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. Miller Lite, it's the original light beer. It's only 96 calories. It tastes great. And yes, it is available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Art. And a huge shout out to Alice Cooper for joining the Word on Woodward. That interview did not disappoint, Art. It was absolutely great. And we have a friend, Jim Rayner, who is watching all the way from Aylesbury, England today, you guys. So he watched the Wings play at Wembley during the 70s. I'm sure he was thrilled with that Alice Cooper interview too, Art. That was awesome. That was really cool. He seemed like a really cool guy.
Yeah, he's really a decent guy. And I love talking to him. The one thing that he said, and when I grew up, and actually we actually had to cut a few things out of the interview, but Detroit was a very vibrant music community. And what was cool is that if you look at the top songs in Detroit, it was a mixture of rock and roll, R&B, Motown, pop, country. I mean, everything, it was like a tapestry of music. And, and he really captured that. And, he's just a really cool dude. And I was thrilled to talk to him. I really, really was. And hopefully I didn't fanboy too much over the guy, but I've long admired his talent. It was really a lot of fun to talk to him.
I thought it was great. Perfect amount of fanboy sprinkled in there.
Yes. I agree.
All right, if you say so.
All right. Before we wrap up today's show, you guys, we've got to touch on a little bit of Tigers news. The Tigers PR department just tweeted out that they have placed catcher Grayson Greiner on the 10-day IL with a left hamstring strain. So that one was obviously a little worse than expected. And they selected catcher Eric Haas from Toledo. So he will be up with the Tigers. And to make room for him on the 40-man roster, right-handed pitcher Franklin Perez had been placed on unconditional release waivers. So really, what do you guys think this means for the catching position? Obviously, I think we're going to see Jake Rogers tonight would be my guess, but Eric Haas might be making his appearance too.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, Johnny Kane and I were talking before they released that, and we were wondering if Grayson Greiner would be, placed on the IR. So it seems like hopefully Jake Rogers will get the opportunity to prove that he deserves a spot in the lineup. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping Jake Rogers will be behind the plate tonight. But Eric Haas, it's good to have that kind of depth in that position. So when something like this happens, it doesn't matter who you pull up, that you'll have a solid player behind the plate.
And much like we just saw with the Red Wings season, some of the young Tigers players are going to get their opportunities, right, Art?
Right, exactly. I mean, much like Alice Cooper, Eric Haas is from Detroit. So notice how I
was like, where's this going?
I know, but Jake Rogers. First of all, doesn't Jake Rogers look like he played for like the 1884 Cincinnati Red Stockings with that stash? I mean, it looks like when they had those round baseball caps, instead of what they have today, like more of a skull cap. But Jake Rogers is going to have to hit. The offense has never been a question, has always been the question. Defense has never been. I'm glad to see Eric Haas. He can hit for power, come up here and he gets an opportunity. The one disappointing thing is Franklin Perez, that just unconditional waiver release. I mean, he was the centerpiece of the Verlander deal, if I remember correctly, with Houston, unless I'm, so that's, the guy was never healthy. And that's the tragedy of professional sports. I mean, all these guys, and you talk about the money and they're playing a kid's game, but they're all one injury away from their career being over, the real worst side of it. And Franklin Perez, for whatever reason, the poor guy just could not stay healthy. The injury bug plagued him. So I'm really sorry to see that happen. But, again, life isn't fair in a lot of ways. And, professional sports is one of the cruelest of them all, as great as we enjoy watching it. But a professional athlete, that's a real tenuous situation, but it'll be nice to see. I'm glad Haas is up here. I want to see what he can do. And if Jake Rogers can hit, he could be your starting catcher. He's that good defensively. So, I wish everybody luck, all the guys we just mentioned in their future endeavors.
And of course, we hope everyone gets healthy soon, including Wilson Ramos too, and obviously Grayson Greiner. So we definitely want them to get healthy. Just looking at the bright side of the injuries, right? We get to see some of our younger players that are in the Tigers system.
Right. Yeah. That's
right.
Sports. That's the way it is.
Thank you. That was very insightful, you guys. That's the way the cookie crumbles. We got it. We've got all the info for you here on the Word on Woodward. If you missed any of today's show, you can catch up and watch some of the interviews that we had today, including that awesome Alice Cooper interview with Art Regner on our Word on Woodward YouTube page. Or, of course, you can listen to the show as a podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or Spotify. The Tigers take on the Kansas City Royals at 7 p.m. tonight. You can tune in on 97.1 The Ticket and Bally Sports Detroit with pregame starting at 6. Keep an eye on the Red Wings social media, as the Word on Woodward will be there live for all of the upcoming press conferences during the offseason. We should hear from Steve Yzerman himself and some Red Wings players, so definitely keep your eye out on social media. We'll talk about all of this week's news and more next week on the Word on Woodward. Same place, same time, social media channels starting at noon. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.